Today, salvation. Today, salvation has come to this house. Here, now. This particular person, this particular house, in this particular town. Salvation. Salvation, the purposes of God being fulfilled. Salvation, the mercy of God being given. The justice of God being worked out. Today, here, salvation has come to this house. And to an unlikely house, an unlikely person. A person that all the people that knew him grumbled about and named, we assume accurately, because Jesus really confirmed it, a sinner. Someone who was doing things that were not of salvation, not part of God's mercy and justice. Today, salvation has come. And as we remember a few things about Zacchaeus and the story, he really, really wanted to see Jesus. And other than the fact that he was acknowledged to be a sinner, and that he was very rich and a chief tax collector, not just your ordinary tax collector, but worse. So he had done things that hurt a lot of people. It's a simple way to put it. He really, really wanted, and we don't know why. We're not told why. And you could probably preach an honest sermon speculating about why, but I'm not going to go that way. He wanted to see Jesus. And so, because it's difficult for him, he can't find a place in the crowd. He figures out how he can see Jesus. He really wants to see him, in case you haven't heard me say that. And he climbs a tree. And he gets out to where finally he's going to see Jesus come by. And Jesus sees him and responds to this person who really, really wants to see him. Zacchaeus, come down. I must go to your house. Jesus honors him above the whole village. And Zacchaeus is happy. And as the people are grumbling about this injustice, maybe beginning to wonder what's wrong with Jesus, doesn't he know what a chief tax collector does, and so forth, Zacchaeus stops. Look, half of my riches, half of my wealth, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anybody, I will repay that with heavy penalty on myself. And Jesus says, today, salvation has come. Because he sees this miracle in Zacchaeus. And help us interpret this. Just think of the Lord's Prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Wow. On earth, in Zacchaeus, thy kingdom come. It's coming. Salvation. Here's the mercy of God. Zacchaeus wants, we have to assume it's very freely, this is genuine. Jesus wouldn't have accepted it. Jesus has inspired in him this honoring of Zacchaeus. He's inspired him. I want to be part of God's purposes and God's concern for the poor. I'm going to stop taking from the poor, and I'm going to be giving to the poor. And he said that publicly. He can't get out of it now. He's repenting in front of the whole village. And in his business dealings and people he's defrauded. He's going to do what's right, justice. And that's what the prophet Isaiah talked about in our reading today, of people that come to God, but it doesn't mean anything if there's blood on your hands, if there's injustice in your life, if there's a lack of compassion and you don't care about the people in your community, in your world, in your life. Then don't come to me and pretend to worship me. It's abhorrent to me, says God. They have to be together. And Zacchaeus is now living the prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. I mean, in most ways, many ways, you and I are just not at all like Zacchaeus. But we see how salvation works. And at least in this story, it begins with the desire to see. The desire to see Jesus, to see God, to see how God is moving in this world. In this case, maybe Zacchaeus wanted to see a prophet, someone who did things that were amazing, but whatever it was, it begins with the desire to see Jesus and to get ourselves to where we can see him. And there's a crowd in the way, a crowd of busyness and anxieties and concerns and all the things we have to do, and people also in our way. So what are you going to do? Your circumstances are different from anyone else's, but what are you going to do to place yourself, get out on a limb, be where you can see and be seen, where this encounter can happen, where you're available to this saving conversation with Jesus? Because Jesus wants to come to your house. He wants to come to your life, to your heart. So each of us have to work that out. God bless you, you came today. It's getting hard for people to even do that. And then how are we going to keep coming so that we can get out to where we can see and hear and get into conversation with Jesus? And then there's the response. I mean, Zacchaeus is happy to welcome him. Jesus is going to honor you if you want to see him. He will come. And then what's your response? Zacchaeus had to respond out of his life and his resources and his sins. And so do I, and so do you. They're all different from one another. But when Jesus comes, then, and we're honored by that, and we want to be part of his life. And so we each have the response, the responsibility of learning what we can offer. It may have to do with money. It may have to do with time. It may have to do with the people in your life and how you're ministering to them. It's endless. But how is the mercy of God finding a home in you and being expressed through you? Jesus will show you. He will inspire it in you if you come to see him and listen and let him come to your home. You will be inspired for your way of being his mercy. And you will be inspired of your need to deal with your own sin, the things that are wrong with you, between you and another person, whatever it may be. We need to do justice, justly with one another. And Jesus will inspire that in us. And so today, Salvation has come. It has come to this house. It comes to your house. How blessed are we? How wonderful, how happy to welcome our Lord. How happy to offer whatever we can offer so that thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thanks be to God.